All right, today is the day that we talk about your brand story, video 4 in the How to Create Your Personal Brand series. So we have figured out your brand essence, we have figured out your why, we have then figured out your target audience. If you do not know any of those, please go back and watch them first. And now we are going to create, or I'm going to give you the framework of creating your brand story. So your brand story is one that resonates very closely with your niche. So that is why it's super important to have watched video number 3 and completed it. And I did make the target audience worksheet available on my website, www.kateobert.com. Go grab that and fill that out, and then come back here if you haven't yet done that. So you want to get very specific about the emotions that your target audience is living, and then get into their subconscious. So your target audience is the hero of the story, not you, not your brand. That is the secret sauce to that every successful brand understands, is that their target audience is the hero. Remember that. So you want them to think that you are the person that this person understands me and I need to work with them. They need to see themselves in you. Have you ever been like watching an entrepreneur or something like that and been feeling like, oh my gosh, they're in my head, they know exactly what I'm going through, like this is crazy? It's because it's planned, right? So they know this because they did their market research, because you are their target audience. So if you've ever felt like that before, it's because they understand you, and you want to do that to your own target audience. So you want your target audience to see themselves in you. So the reason for that is this shows that you are connected. It shows that you care about them, and it shows that you are an authority. It shows that you are credible to help them with their transformation and help them solve their problem. So the first thing, let me see if I need to go through anything else. As I mentioned, I am taking this all from my signature program. So this is pretty good. Let's see here. Okay, so this is a big part. I'm skipping over a couple things. That's just a little bit more. I go way more in depth in my program, but I wanted to give more of an outline to help all of you create this story for you. So as I mentioned before, the human brain is drawn towards clarity and away from confusion. If your brand is confusing, people are going to leave. The more simple and predictable the communication, the easier it is for the brain to digest. The brain isn't going to have to be working to put all the pieces together and figure out what you're trying to say, because that's exhausting. So a story helps because it is a sense-making mechanism. So essentially, the story formulas put everything in order so the brain doesn't have to do the extra work to understand what you're trying to say. Our brains are tasked with setting up a system in which we eat, drink, and survive physically. Our job and dependable income, our food and shelter, relationships, spiritual needs, etc. We are constantly scanning our environment for information to help us meet our primitive needs. Then in turn survive. So that's really what we're wired to do. Then there's information to help us eat, drink, and find a mate, fall in love, build a tribe, experience a deeper sense of meaning. If we blast random information at customers, like having the biggest, what was the example I used? So random. Having the biggest manufacturing in the West Coast, or like our customers don't care. They don't care about these facts of like, our distribution is like the largest distribution in North America, or blah, 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 blah. Like, we don't care. You need to speak to those primitive needs. You need to speak to something that is going to, help us with our ability to survive. And that's also, jobs, money, right? So whether that's also helping them be fit and healthy so they can survive, and, so we have to be touching on these points. And if we don't, they ignore us. So that's the thing with like mistake number one is we fail to focus on the aspects that will actually, of the offer that will help them survive and thrive. So we focus on things like I said, things that don't matter. Like, we have the biggest, production and this, we have that, like, no one cares, right? Like, how are you going to help me? That's what they're wondering. Our brains will this is actually a really cool example. So I'm going to read this to you. So there's a study, right? And it's saying our brains will always know where the exits are in a room versus how many chairs there are. Our subconscious is always categorizing and organizing information. And when we talk publicly about our brand's random backstory or internal goals, we're positioning ourselves as the chairs, not the exits. So, again, like, I can go, I guess mistake number two is cause the customer to burn too many calories in order to understand your offer. It's just like throwing too much information at them that they just literally don't care. So we just need to be careful with that. So now let's get to the framework. If you think back to English class, right, there's a setting, a plot, a conflict, and a resolution in a story. So we need to position the audience as the hero and ourselves as the guide. And we'll be recognized as a trusted resource to help them overcome their challenge, to help them solve their problem. So the first things first is the setting. What was a time in your life before you realized you had a problem? Were you not in great shape? Fill in the blank. Number two, the conflict. Where were you when you realized that you had a problem? When you realized that not everything was right? So a great way to build your authority is by showing your clients that you were once where they are now, and that you were sharing their current pain, and that you can take them where they want to go, aka you can help solve their problem because you were them, you're not them, they want to be you, you're in their desired self. Following? Then the third thing is the climax. So this is the turning point, this is the aha moment. So you've already figured out what emotions your target audience is currently experiencing, and you've thought back to a time in your life when you have either had the same emotions or similar, and you've made a connection with your niche, and this is where they realize that your former rock bottom is their current reality. So the next part in step 3 is the most important part of the brand story, and the action that you took as a result of your rock bottom is the same action that you want your ideal client to take as a part of solving their problem. I'll pause and let that sink in. So for example, what is the example I had? So if you're in terrible shape mentally and physically, you're overindulging, overeating, you just couldn't figure out how to stop binge eating, and you're terribly unhappy. But everything changed when you hired a fitness coach who helped you overcome this issue, and you are now mentally and physically healthy. You want them to do what you did. Number 4, the resolution. So you now need to show that you are in the destination that your ideal clients want to be in. So those things could be having the body of your dreams, having confidence, strong and in control, energized, whatever. So the example continues, like, now I'm happier than I've ever been, and I have a healthy relationship with food. So you want to speak to their emotions, and how do they want to feel? What actually do they want? So they don't just want to buy your product. Your product solves something for them. Your product represents something. Same with your service. They need your services because of something that it represents for them. You need to speak to their emotions, not just spit out so many different benefits that your product or service does. Does that make sense? So that is your brand story. So the 3 things that you need to do and recap is the setting, the plot, the conflict, and what did I do? Setting the conflict. So we'll do setting and plot the same. The conflict, climax, and the resolution. So write all of those out. Start putting the framework together, and then what you want to do with that is you want to tell that story over and over and over. Make it short and sweet, but with all the information in there, and say it over and over on your IG stories, because that's the best way to sell, is not selling, right? Like, you want to just share your story and share what helped you. So you want to share your brand story, and this is going to evoke those emotions. It's very specific. That's going to get to the emotions of your target audience. So put that on your stories and then have it on the highlights, and then let me know if this was helpful, and I will see you at the next video.